with your group number and name.
So we kind of put everything in 3 different sheets, that's why.
Okay, what group is it for? What
Not on
number?
here? Oh, okay, fine. Sorry, group 4.
Your group four. Who are you?
Alexis?
No. Group four? Oh, okay. Okay. All right, most important thing. Culture. These are folk who are hunters, who are gatherers, who are nomadic, and they move as their water and cattle exist. When the water and the cattle dry out, water dries out, cattle, not enough, they have to move. What happens with their culture is that when the European settler comes in, the European settler moves them off of the land and enslaves them. Enslaves them so that they can work in the mining areas that are being developed. So it's free labor, slavocracy. Then after that, time moves on, and you still have the notion now of colonization. Colonization comes in, and again, it's free labor. Now, the indigenous population, they know the land. They understand the climate. It is earth and I are one. Do you understand? So over time, their bodies have become, if you will, indoctrinated to that land. So therefore, when you talk about germs, the indigenous population have over centuries built up antibodies against the most prevalent disease of that time, which is malaria. But when the colonizer comes in and he says, water, oh, how lucky we are. We don't have to dig a well. And what do? They set up right by the water, not knowing and understanding that when you set up by the water, you are setting up by your mosquito source. Do you understand? So that's where the mosquitoes go. And it's the same thing today in New York City. You hear on the news all the time, don't you? If you listen to the news, and they say, especially in Queens, New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, and even some areas of Canarsie have gotten hit. Folks who have homes and they allow the water to just stay there and they don't drain the water, you have a heavy population of mosquitoes, right? Well, same thing. Same thing happened originally, I'm sorry, my voice is drying out. When the colonizer came in and you had that mosquito source. So the only thing with them, they were dying out. Do you follow? It was killing them. And they couldn't understand why. Then they came to realize, oh, the indigenous people have hit upon something. They're not living by the water. They're living in a higher up area, away from the water. Now, when you talk about, what was the next thing on that list I wanted to mention? Okay. When early 1800s, when they come into the Democratic Republic of the Congo, what's important to know, because this is extremely important because this is what the colonizer does all the time. Not only does he come in, rape the women, steal the resources, but they burn and destroy the land. It's called Raising the Land, R-A-Z-I-N-G. They razed the land. They wiped out the land and the homes. So now, your indigenous population, if they escape, what they have no place to escape back to. The land is destroyed. In addition to that, fire kills out the land in which your resources, agricultural, can grow. It takes years for that land to come back after fire has burned it. Look what's happening in California today. Do you understand? You don't know what's happening in California? They have the fires.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yes.
How does that happen? How does that happen? Because like the weather is.
In California? I don't want to digress and go there. I'm just mentioning it. I don't know how the fire started, but sometimes it's by accident, and it's what they call a cook fire, because they have people who are hiking, etc. And it may start by accident. It takes one spark, because the land is dry. They haven't had rain. California. Okay, right? So now, bring me back to Africa. So back to Africa. All right. So they come in and they burn and raze the land. So then that means that when other colonizers come in behind them and they see nothing there, they look around and they say, these indigenous people, these natives, they never had any culture, they never had resources, they never took advantage of the land. And in addition to that, whatever they can find culturally, artifacts, etc., they destroy them. But what happened, we are so thankful. Down the line and through the centuries, you now have archaeologists who go into these native indigenous populations, and they go into the caves, and they dig up the earth. And what happened in South Africa, artwork, rock art, on the walls of the caves that tell their history and their story of their people. In addition to that, while the archaeologists are working specific areas of land, they have dug down and they have found artifacts and tools and jewelry and weaponry, etc., that speak to centuries and centuries ago, and they have come to find out there was a rich civilization once upon a time that had been destroyed by white settlers and colonizers. Do you understand? Got me? Okay. All right. What else? So guns, germs, and steel. Guns, and John says it, I love it. He says it so beautifully in the documentary. There's a point where he says, and he points with his finger, and he says the colonizer came in and they pushed them with the gun. You understand? Shooting, killing, and they had to go before the gun and run in order to try to get away. But we know that they didn't really, because we see the iconic photos of them where they captured them, and you saw where they had the neck brace and they're leading them away. Then the other iconic photos of them with the neck brace and also hanging from the trees where they killed and lynched them. You understand? So guns, germs, we have discussed, malaria, smallpox, fever. It is the climate that kills the white settlers. They're not used to it. All right? Indigenous population, they live there. You know, they know to cover up. You understand? We would think to go in and the best way for us to be cool is to wear perhaps sleeveless, short sleeve, whatever. No. When you go into those areas, you see the women are covered. The men are covered. Or they have sleeves, long sleeves, etc. The women wear flowing skirts or long skirts, all right? They're not walking around with shorts on, okay? All right. Guns, so that's guns, germs. Steel is the railroad. The railroad is built by the indigenous population. Labor, free labor. And the railroad is from southern Africa, and it goes all the way through the mid-coast of Africa, veers off and goes towards the western coastal areas of Africa, and you have your import and export, transportation, so that when they do the mining, they dig down into the bowels of the earth and they bring up the iron ore, the coal, the diamonds. You understand? Hoodia. Put them on that train, toot, 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 to the coast, and they move it out across the waters and across the land. Excuse me. All right, that was group 4. Group 5. Group 5, please.
Okay, so we did the Bushman Survival International. So between 1997, 2002, and 2005, almost all the Bushmen were forced out of their homes and taken away, and their health posts were destroyed. They're basically taking away all of their rights, taking away their hunting grounds to eviction camps outside the reserve. The road was pulled down, water drained, and the Bushmen took the Botswana government to court in 2006, and then that's when they won the right to return to home.
On 13 December 2016, the Bushman on the historic Victoria Gardens ruled their eviction by the government was unlawful and unconstitutional.
And then because of all of this, now there's a lot of tourism since in the 1980s the diamonds were discovered, and because of that, this stirred up a bunch of stuff. So now, the Bushmen, they were being forced out of their homes, and now it's a place where you can go and like sip cocktails and everything. It's like a whole tourist area.
Yeah. About like how it happened with tourists, it was like in 1980s, diamonds were discovered and stuff like that. So basically, like the whole dominant culture, they basically came in and like wanted to take over, and they basically like created like lounges for tourists to come and chill out while they're in
All
that
while the
water.
Bushmen, their water was still plugged up at this point. Like they still didn't have full access to water. Only the animals, everything around them, but only them, but not the Bushmen themselves.
Yeah.
And now there's a diamond mine there on the ground, and then
They made it already.
Several
of them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, clap for them. More? You have more? The lawyer? I'll do it. Okay. What group is this?
5.
Okay, 5. Do we have group 6? Are you 5 and 6?
No.
Just group 5? Do I have no group 6? Okay. All right. Okay. Now, what has been happening in this area with the Bushmen is really quite sad. They are spending a small fortune going back and forth to court. This is their life. Sometimes, I'm sorry. What? What?
The quit was a setup.
Yes. It's rigged against them. The court, dominant culture. The court is just as I'm also going to say, because it says it in the documentary, just as the police station that is centered right in their community, that police station, remember, is not to protect them. The police station is to place them, eyes on me. It is to center them, it is to place them, it is to put them on notice. You are less than, you are marginalized, and you are being watched. It is a form of terror. I want to say terrorism. It is. It's a form of terrorism modern day. Do you understand? The notion that every time I look out my window and I look at that police station, I come to understand that you are not centered there to help me, the Bushman. You are centered there to help the farmers and the tourists, and you are centered there to help white dominant culture, not the indigenous population. Same thing, unfortunately, with the court system. The court system is not there to favor the Bushmen. And when they do win their case, what happens to the lawyer?
He got banned from
The
going.
lawyer is vanquished. Vanquished? Banished. Banished, you understand, from South Africa. He cannot come back into the land. So you have a lawyer who believes in your cause. And this is hard and it's dangerous for him. Because if you listen to the news, you will see folks are getting killed every day. But this is a man who believes in the cause of the Bushmen. He's a righteous man. He's an honorable man. And he stands up for the people who have been marginalized. And he's an excellent lawyer. So much so that their cause has been uplifted for a moment. For a moment. Then they go back to the court system and they lose the case again. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, constantly fighting for your rights. And that's why Uma, who's Uma? Who's Uma? The elder, female. When she first came on the screen, you laughed when you saw her face. No. You should not have. Because I say, when you see that face, that may be the face of your auntie, your grandmother, great-grandmother, 20 years from now, if she's still living. The face of the elder. You honor always. And she says, I will die and I will still fight for the rights of my people. Because Uma has history. You understand? Uma's history is that she saw her own father killed by that police station, murdered by dominant culture. Because he was a healer. You understand? Her father was a healer, a San healer, a Bushman healer, murdered, just like Abshel Roy. So when you have history and you have lived and you see the cycle of violence and death and degradation because they are trying to kill their culture. When you are not allowed to speak your language, remember? He said he called it the gossip language, the other elder. And he said the language was twisted out of his ear. I love that phrase because it's significant. I can visualize it. I see it in my mind's eye. Dominant culture twisting a younger person's ear to hurt them, to put fear into them. And he says that's how the language was twisted out of me. But there are a few words that I still remember. Remember? All right. Okay. Okay. That's it. Now I'm going to move on to set me up. Where's my people? Go to Miriam Makeba. Where's the other person?
You didn't finish
Oh.
explaining remarks in the beginning. My group presented this, but you really didn't explain all of them.
Did we do all of that?
We presented, but you really didn't explain.
Oh, okay. You want me to explain it?
Can you please explain?
Okay.
Just to be sure.
Okay. Why didn't I?
The time ran out.
Oh, time? Always. Time is my worst enemy. Okay, where's the sheet? Here we go. Okay. Okay. Cultural beliefs of Khoisan. You want me to do all of them? Or where do we leave off?
No, it was Death of a Bushman, the second one. Death of a Bushman,
Unilever? Where are we?
the second one.
Oh,
We presented, but you didn't discuss each point.
this one?
Yeah, the second one.
Oh gosh, I can do that fast. Okay. Murder of Abtel Roy. Abtel Roy is murdered, one, because he knew too much. The notion is that dominant culture does not believe in anything that is different and or unusual. And we have that in today's society also. If folks are different, you have folks who are in the majority look down upon them because they don't understand them. Do you understand? And that goes to race, religion, sexuality. If we don't understand it, we question it and have a tendency to demonize it. That's the literary term. You become demonized. And I'm just going to, as an aside, you don't have to know this, but during the days of colonization here in the United States, in Massachusetts, you had women who were hung and or burned at the stake, and they called them witches. This is a part of American history, right in Boston, you understand? And they call it the Salem Witch Era. Do you follow? Because those women, and they were white women, they were part of the settlers who came in. They were part of the colony that had been set up. But those women had traditional belief systems. They used natural herbs. They prayed. And dominant culture that was coming from a puritanical background said those women are using witchcraft. And they burned them at the stake. Now I'm moving to today. We still have it in today's society. and you had it here with the Bushmen. Look down upon Optel Roy is murdered because he's different, he knows too much, but there's also another issue with Optel Roy. Optel Roy had been walking the land. Optel Roy said there is someone who is poaching off of the land, and I know who it is who's going into the park and doing the poaching. Now, for those of you who do not know what poaching is, it's really hunting, and where you're hunting big game, such as elephants, tigers, and you're only allowed to hunt game at certain periods of time during the year. You understand?
I know.
So now someone is going into this park area and they kill the rhinoceros and they kill the elephant for the ivory, for the tusk. Yes? Do you follow me? Someone is going into the land and poaching these animals. Optel Roy says, I have seen and I know who's done it. He's killed 3 weeks later. Before, because he said, I'm going to tell. He was going to go to the courts and speak it. Now, it's interesting because we would call him today a whistleblower. That's it. You understand? You know what a whistleblower is? Oh, huh? A whistleblower, corporate America, you hear it all the time. A whistleblower is someone who tells on a corporation when something underhanded, illegal is being done. Instead of praising the whistleblower in today's given society, most of the time they get fired. It's sad. You understand? Okay, Optel Roy said he was going to tell who was poaching. That's the main reason why he's killed. Also, significance of, oh no, where am I? Permit in the land, 1999. 1999, that's the Kalahari Park, where it is fenced off. And now, indigenous population has to have a permit in order to walk the land, in order to hunt on the land. And one of the most important things about that is that now in the Kalahari Park, they have established tourism. So now you have the tour companies are going into this park, and they call it, if you want to have a safari experience. That comes later on, but they're also doing it in this park. It is one of the most beautiful parks there is. And if you pull up the park on YouTube and research the park, you will see they have swimming pools. I have a wonderful video that shows modern times. They have swimming pools. They have all these, what do they call them, tents with the white linen covers flowing from it. They have the beds, the air beds. So people come and they could have a wonderful safari experience. You understand? And they get to ride all the animals. They get to drink wine by the fire. You follow me? They have dug swimming pools on the park. So now, dominant culture doesn't have to worry about being hot. You can jump in a pool. You understand? They have the saunas. So what was once land where I knew I could, not me, but where the indigenous population, Bushmen, knew they could walk, get food, get water, have cattle, it's gone for them. It's gone. And that's why when we move to that other piece of the video, and I'm making things relate, and you have to notice because you're going to see it on the midterm. When you see Rashid, who's the documentarian, asking the gentleman who is for the minority people, and they go visit him. Do you remember that? And he starts talking about the San people. And he said they signed the treaty, the patent system. Why? He said it's not San-like for them to want more money. The San just trust everybody. Isn't it more important that now the San are being given recognition? No! I want my money. Show me the money. You understand? You've taken my land. I have no home. You pushed me onto the periphery of the land where there's no water, no Hudea, and the land that you put me on, I can't grow anything. Show me the money. You're not getting any money. Okay? Next, significance of their lack of knowledge. Yes, I love that, because significance of their lack of knowledge of corporate ways and businesses. I love it when they're signing the patent, the CSIR, Council Industrialization Research, come in, okay? And they're signing that agreement. Listen, and you have the elder, we see him later. You have the elder saying, I have to look over, I'll call him Walter. Walter, he says, because we cannot have any more errors. There have been too many errors. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's everybody laughs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where everybody in the room starts to laugh? I want to cry. I don't want to laugh, I want to cry. Because he speaks the truth. But he's trusting. He believes that they're going to do the right thing by him. And when he says there have been too many errors in the past, he's absolutely right. They have consistently been stealing what is mine. And this is an error that's being signed. Because he doesn't realize, they've stolen his land and used his name. You follow? So he has no knowledge of corporate ways. He's not savvy to modern day business. That's what that's about. He's a part of the signing, and they say, put your signature here, X. You understand? He doesn't know that they're still